Hori, we need to cook because
What?
it's content championship time. Now, Hori doesn't get that reference because he's never seen Breaking Bad.
Well,
But he
joke's on
has seen
you.
Return of the Jedi.
Since the last time we did Breaking Bad, I've binged the whole. No,
No,
Imagine.
you absolutely haven't.
Imagine if I hadn't told you, and I literally was like, "Yeah, no, I have genuinely
If
watched the whole of
after
it."
Breaking Bad got through the last round, you're like, I'm going to watch this in secret before the next time it comes up, I would have been genuinely very impressed.
I have a time turner.
Breaking Bad versus Return of the Jedi is such a phenomenally interesting debate.
Yes.
Because you've got Breaking Bad, which is seen as one of the greatest shows of all time, right up there alongside The Sopranos and stuff.
Mm.
And then you've got Return of the Jedi, which is nerd mecca up there with like prime Lord of the Rings and stuff. Wow. It's not an easy one.
I'm actually kind of glad I've only seen one of these because it makes it easier for me.
Yeah, no, 100%. But to make it a bit interesting, and to make it a fair fight, I will only talk about Breaking Bad, and you can only talk about Return of the Jedi.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, would you like to give us your reason why Return of the Jedi is more personally relevant to you?
Because I've watched it. Simple as. I mean, other than the fact that I have seen bits of Breaking Bad, so I can't really say that. But I would say more so because it is the introduction, that original trilogy, though I was not old enough or alive.
What do you mean you're not old enough?
When it released.
I thought A New Hope was the first film you saw in cinema.
Yeah, good joke.
Never gets old, unlike horror.
It was the intro, like that trilogy was the introduction to Star Wars. I remember it as a kid watching those on the TV, and especially Return of the Jedi, as that was the last one and was more in closer to my young days. So yeah, it's pretty strongly. It was kind of my introduction to sci-fi and got me hooked in that world. Whereas Breaking Bad I haven't really seen, so
that's fair enough. When it comes to Breaking Bad, the way I view it is I was so late to Breaking Bad. Obviously, it was huge when it was on TV.
It was.
Then Netflix gave it a second wind because it was on Netflix in the early days of Netflix, and that's what sent it global. And people on I remember being in school when like everyone was old enough and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm 15 now. I'm going to watch the show about the meth dealing teacher." And just like I've done with countless other shows, including Game of Thrones, everyone was telling me I had to watch it, so I went, "No, fuck you." And then eventually I was like, I want to watch something. No one was talking about Breaking Bad anymore, or no one was talking about it. It wasn't, oh, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to watch it in my own peace and at my own pace. The first time, I think like a number of people, I fell off like 2 episodes into season 2. And then 2-3 months later, I gave it another go. And I binged all through 6 seasons in like 3 weeks. Wow. I had at the time managed to avoid a lot of like spoilers for the show in a way that I can't do anymore. I wasn't as chronically online as I am now. So I hadn't like had basically the entire plot spoiled for me. Even if you have had the entire plot spoiled for you, I still think it's worth a watch because it will surprise you how it does it. But watching that, not knowing anything other than this is a teacher with cancer who deals meth. Wow, just some of the most entertaining TV I've ever seen.
I would say I've still to this day avoided most spoilers.
Well, you are so lucky.
I have a general understanding of how things have progressed through the season, and like he becomes more and more in like it is who he becomes sort of thing. Yeah. But then other than that, like
so good. How well it is aged? These might be the two titans of how well has it aged.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi has aged
Phenomenal.
literally like the world's best wine.
Yeah.
And Breaking
It
Bad
has.
gets more popular year on year because you have a whole bunch of new people who'd never watched it before watching it, and they're like, "Oh my god, Breaking Bad's really good." In like 3 or 4 years' time, we're gonna get a generation of 16-year-olds watching it for the first time, and then Twitter is just gonna be full of, "Have you guys heard of this old show called Breaking Bad? It's so good," and we're all gonna be like, "The fuck do you mean old show, motherfucker?"
I know what you mean, though. Whereas, like, Return of the Jedi, it's like every year, and it's like, it's hard not to also include, like, we try not to do this, but obviously every bit of new Star Wars content feels like it adds more to what was told in the original trilogy.
Yeah,
But then, even so, the original trilogy on its own, we appreciate it more because we're like, oh my god, we really got just great prime Star Wars without realizing it.
100%. Yeah. Do you
And
know? Do you know? If like someone gave me a time machine and they're like, "You're only allowed to do stupid fun stuff with it. You're not allowed to do anything serious." Going back to be like at the premiere of Star Wars or in one of them early theaters with people experiencing it for the first time, inject it straight a fucking way.
yes, yes, all the
That
yes.
like if we get to the point in human time where we're like, okay, we've invented time travel, but you're only allowed to use it to go and do fun stuff. That is the kind of thing that I'd be like, yeah, no, I absolutely have to. And then we find out that there's a time paradox and Star Wars is actually only so popular because so many people went back in time to watch Star Wars at the release. And no one actually, if we did never develop time travel, no one would have gone back to watch Star Wars. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's why it gets better with A. That's why it's aging so well.
Rewatchability.
I mean, I've rewatched the original trilogy multiple times, so
It's
pretty up
probably
there.
one of my it's probably one of my more rewatched things.
I'd say between that and Lord of the Rings, it's tough.
As we have established numerous times, I'm not a big rewatcher. I remember
No,
stuff
this
too well.
is true.
At some point in the future, I will rewatch Breaking Bad. I do know for a fact a lot of people rewatch it like yearly. People who rewatch a show like that yearly are fucking sociopaths and cannot be trusted.
The only show I think that's valid to do with is Friends.
Friends, Family Guy, you get to pick a silly sitcom and you can rewatch that to your heart's content.
Yeah.
If you're watching serious dramas multiple times a year or yearly when you've already seen it, you have the memory of a goldfish or you are deeply boring.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just thing. For rewatchability, all I have written down is I am the danger. Obviously, you don't know what that's about, but it's moments like that that make like at one point I would love maybe it's gonna sound really bad, and I don't mean it as bad as it sounds. If I could get like a very light form of dementia, that means I forget content I've already watched.
Jeez. Okay.
I'd
yeah.
be so down. Because one of the saddest things is I like the amount
Just
of
go with
people I know who like
amnesia.
yeah, and amnesia would work. The amount of people who like they'll watch something and like 3 years later they're watching it again and they're like, "Oh, I don't remember any of this." I'm like, I wish I could do that. I would love so much to experience Breaking Bad for the first time again, and I will have to rewatch it at some point just because of the mastery of the storytelling.
I mean, I still need to watch it. So
You absolutely do need to watch it. That's next on your list. You've done The Boys and Invincible. Now you have to watch Breaking Bad.
I can't wait.
So that you can have a bit as big a headache as I'm having right now. Story.
Ooh, I mean, Return of the Jedi is the accumulation of that original trilogy. It's everything coming to fruition. All of that story coming to its grand end. And essentially just kickstarting the world that is Star Wars.
Yeah, but the actual enclosed story of just episode 6.
I mean, it's still great.
It's the weakest of the 3.
I mean, still. It is. It's so hard that this is the problem I struggle the most with Star Wars is like not adding weight to it because of other content that's come out.
Yeah.
And in terms of us doing this, it's like trying to just focus on Return of the Jedi and not think of the whole trilogy and not think of like the prequels and then now the shows and like all this stuff that's added to like that appreciation of those final moments. Like it's tough, but I mean, it wrapped up that trilogy well, and I think you're right. It's not the strongest of the trilogy, but an
Well,
issue
so
we've talked about with trilogies is often the third is really weak, whereas I don't think it was like
no,
it wasn't terrible.
based
So
on the standard of trilogies, it is
mm,
definitely well above the standard. And as sci-fi films for the 80s go,
yeah,
fucking rock solid.
yeah,
However, Breaking Bad is by far a better story.
Well, yeah,
As much as we sitting here on our nerdy podcast do have to defend nerd culture,
mm,
Breaking Bad is one of the single greatest stories ever told.
yeah,
The multiple characters going through such impressive character development over like 70 episodes is beyond impressive. And it feels so gradual. Do you know what it is? I probably said this last time we discussed Breaking Bad.
probably.
You know how when you see someone every day, if their
Mm,
weight changes, you don't
yeah,
notice
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And then you see a picture of them, and then you realize how much their weight has
yeah,
changed. That's how Breaking Bad does its character development. Every single episode, there's a little bit. You
mm,
got them big moments, but there's these little bits, and you don't feel like from one episode to the next they're that different. And then by
mm.
the time you get to the end, you look back at how far you've come, and you're like, I don't even recognize this person.
I get what you mean.
And
I, f-
it's wow,
I think to put
so impressive.
the only way you could put any like Return of the Jedi close is like the only way you could do that is if you looked at the Skywalker saga as
Yes,
a story from start to finish, and then maybe it'd be like getting close to the same level. But I do
yeah,
agree, even though I haven't seen it, like from what I have heard and what I've seen, the way people discuss Breaking Bad, that story is incredible. So
yeah. Acting once again for 1980s sci-fi, it's about as good as you're gonna get.
yeah, it's solid performances.
Like no one hams it up too much.
No,
No one treats it like a piece of shit that doesn't deserve their time.
hmm
It hits that balance lovely.
it does. But
Go on.
so I feel
Or are you
like
waiting
you're
for
about.
my butt?
I thought you were about to go, but Breaking Bad.
But Breaking Bad.
I no, yeah, you're
Just to put like the power of Breaking Bad's acting into context.
mm,
Everyone was adamant Breaking Bad would fail before the first episode came out because they hired Bryan Cranston to
mm,
be a meth dealing teacher, and at that point he was known for Malcolm in the Middle
yep,
and being a comedy actor. So
yep,
everyone was like, "How the fuck is this guy going to do a serious drama?"
yep,
And then he walked away with so many Emmy nominations and I think a few wins for his acting in this show
mm,
that he now gets to do comedy stuff, and people don't realize he's a comedy actor by
yeah.
nature.
I know what you
He
mean.
does like these comedy films occasionally. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, Bryan Cranston's got brilliant comedic time." And it's like, yeah, that's where he was born. He just wanted to remind everyone that good comedy actors are just good actors.
Yeah, with like the performances in Return of the Jedi are solid for the time. They are like they do
They're
what they
what they
need to.
need to be.
Yes, but like Bryan Cranston alone just takes it for Breaking Bad because it's like it just shows his level of ability to completely change perspective on who he is as an actor. So I
I
can't
am
even
not
argue with that.
one as a general rule to buy into hype of a show. Like I when it comes to stuff that's like popular media, I know I
Mm,
say that being a superhero fan, but like popular media in the sense of like the film bros love it.
yeah, I know what
I'm
you mean.
always a little bit like, are they looking too much into stuff? I think Breaking Bad is the exception to the rule.
Mm.
And like, I'm so scared of like watching stuff and being disappointed because film bros are so all over it that I haven't got around to watching The Sopranos yet. And I do want to watch that. That's another thing I want to watch because I'm sure it won't miss.
Yeah.
But it's that fear of if it does miss, I'm just going to be really sad.
I
And
get what you
Breaking
mean.
Bad, when I finished that, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I actually sat down to watch it because it is all just so good. All of the actors do a great job. Yes, Bryan Cranston is obviously a standout playing the main character,
Yeah.
but everyone who has serious screen time absolutely balls out. Like prime Ronaldo, prime Messi, prime LeBron, prime Michael, they absolutely put up all-time GOAT numbers. And yes, the quality of the story and the script definitely helps, but they
Yes,
still have to deliver on it.
they do.
Shakespeare's only Shakespeare if you deliver it properly. Me and you doing Shakespeare in the Park is going to be shit.
I don't know. I did a Shakespeare production when I was 10.
What were you, a tree?
No, we did Midsummer's Night's Dream, and I was the dad of one of the main princesses. I was like a lord or something.
All I know is I got told off during English
Do
class.
you know what's funny? You make the old jokes. My role was an old man, and I was given a grey hair and a fake grey stubble.
You've always been an old man.
Yep.
Cinematography / general visuals.
I
am
mean,
giving it to Star Wars.
the practical. The practical sells Star Wars.
What they managed to do in 1984 or whatever year it was is still to this day mind-blowing.
Yes. What they were able to achieve with miniatures and practical effects at that time to sell a sci-fi world, like people compare current Star Wars saying they wish it was more like the original trilogy. So it shows how much it holds up.
I am willing to hear people not enjoying Star Wars because they feel like it's like a kiddified story or it's like not like true art in a story way. While I don't agree with that, I understand why people might view it that way.
Yeah.
I will never ever accept anyone bad mouthing the visuals of the original Star Wars trilogy. George Lucas deserves all of his flowers as a director purely for what he was able to pull off with miniatures and camera tricks and just pure love of the craft.
Him and his direction and LucasArts team, and him being like the time he spent with them building the visuals of this world practically, like they all did stunning work.
I mean, even down to how they recorded the iconic Star Wars scroll. That wasn't a dumb thing at the time. You look at it now and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They got the scroll on a screen and they just recorded the screen.
Yeah.
And like they had the effect working to make it all look good.
Yeah.
That wasn't even something that was considered then.
No.
The guy's a pioneer just for that. No matter what you might think of his writing potentially or other decisions made through directing stuff, as a visual guy, wow, second to none. That being said, I do not want to understate the importance of the cinematography in Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, like
there is a number of times where they make a very deliberate decision with the cinematography that has a big impact in the way the story is told. And just because it's TV and we love Star Wars cinematography so much, I don't want people to think that Breaking Bad cinematography is bad. Next to basically any other TV show, Breaking Bad has some of the best cinematography of all time. Some of the directorial decisions around how they're going to do a shot and how they're going to show something is phenomenal. And I think the biggest way I can emphasize that is there is a Twitter account that was created to show every single frame of Breaking Bad season 1 through to the end, uploading every frame every 2 hours, I think it was. And the amount of them frames that made it onto people's main feed because they're like, look how beautiful this shot is. The colors in it were really muted because it's set in New Mexico and stuff where everything's like quite clay colored. But like the actual shot choice, phenomenal. No other TV show has made me even think about cinematography in the same way.
There you go.
Right. Now it's time to tot it up.
Well, I have personal relevance to Star Wars.
Personal relevance has to be Star Wars. We are a nerd podcast. We are nerds through and through. Personal relevance is basically always going to go to the bigger part of my nerd identity, and that is always going to be Star Wars in this situation. How well has it aged? This film is 50 years old, nearly. 40 years old. And it's still aging better.
It's just aged phenomenally. It really
Yeah,
has.
it's something. Just imagine, like, just put it in. Imagine in 40 years' time, you'll be 130, and 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 someone stumbles onto this YouTube channel,
Oh,
and they watch and enjoy these episodes of the podcast from 40 years ago.
I'd be impressed if you're watching.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know how
Yeah,
insane that is? Just as
yeah.
a concept,
Oh, yeah, it's wild.
crazy. As well as Breaking Bad has aged and will continue to age. My God, the staying power of the original Star Wars trilogy is simply unmatched.
Mm-hmm.
Rewatchability, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Again, in this situation, the rewatchability and how well it's aged do kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah,
Because
they do.
Star Wars wouldn't have aged so well over 40 years if it wasn't so rewatchable.
Yeah,
Story is Breaking Bad, it's not a discussion.
yeah,
Acting is Breaking Bad, it's not a discussion.
yeah.
And cinematography is Star Wars, again, it's not a discussion. I mean, this is the way you set it up. It's three things that are very opinion based, and then three things that are supposed to be more easy to go, this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And this is one of the few ones where it is actually that simple.
Yeah.
The idea that you
wild.
can take the concept of a chemistry teacher gets cancer and decides to sell meth, and you can watch that entire thing without bursting out laughing at how ridiculous the concept is.
Yeah.
Is a testament to the writing power.
Yeah.
That makes it 4-2 to Star Wars.
It does.
In a heartbreaking defeat for Breaking Bad.
Well, makes me happy.
But I'm not going to sit here and say it's the wrong decision either.
No, I think it was a very tough one to put it against, unfortunately.
But Breaking Bad does need to take solace in the fact that we voted Breaking Bad through against Mandalorian in round 1, with you never having seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like, that's impressive in and of itself.
Yeah.